Hi everyone, Michael at Bartowski Book Club here. I'm just off on Instagram Live with author John Mars, in which we talked about his career, his upcoming Netflix adaptation of The One, and his new book, The Minders. Watch on to see what he had to say.
Oh my God, my face was a bit close there, wasn't it? Hi,
Hello.
Michael.
Hello.
How are you doing? You all right? Can you hear
So
me?
nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I don't know what angle I've chosen, but it's made my lockdown face get even fatter. I look like a young
Oh,
David Cameron.
you look absolutely fine. Have you had a haircut since lockdown?
No, it's booked for next Thursday. Can you tell? Look at it. It's
It
like
doesn't look too
Fraser
bad.
Crane in Fraser Crane like kind of started sprouting this big thing at the beginning of like the 90s with big hair at the back and becoming like that. It's terrible. Yeah. I'm normally wearing a baseball cap, but even now I'm kind of getting to the age where I shouldn't really be wearing baseball caps.
Oh, it's the sophisticated look.
Yes, yes. There's not a bird on your shoulder. I'm a little disappointed. I'm not
I
gonna lie.
know. She's here. Well, the truth is, I have to put her through the other room because if I'm talking to anybody that's not her, she'll scream.
Right. You see that possessive?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yes, it's a very exciting day for you today, the release of your new book.
Yeah, it's all a bit strange, isn't it? I feel like that there's probably too much of me going on at the moment because this is my second book this year. It just feels
Yeah.
like well, second book in place for about 3 months. But because I write for two different publishers, so one of them's
Mhm.
Thomson Mercer and the other one is Penguin. And because I write for the both of them, they kind of work independently of one another.
Mhm.
So I have really no say of when one thing comes out and another thing comes out. Hence, yeah, two in the space of a few months. So people are going to be sick of me.
It's only about 4 months since the last one. I thought you must have been busy during lockdown.
No, they were both done like consecutively. But yeah, it was just so happened that they come out around about the same time. Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but never mind.
So you write two completely different types of book. I put that in my review today. Do you have a preference over the type of book that you write, or are you trying to alternate them?
I kind of try and alternate them. I like writing both of them for different reasons. You can use more of your imagination when it comes to
Yeah.
the Penguins. I think they call it what they call it, kind of speculative fiction. So you can use your
Hmm.
imagination a bit more, but yeah, it takes a lot more research because everything that I try and write about, I kind of like to have. I like it to be possible one day that this is going to happen. So it takes a lot of research
Yeah.
to check whether that's the case, or if it's not the case, whether I can just kind of exaggerate it a bit and see what happens. But
Hmm.
with psychological fiction, it's less about using your imagination and more about having to base it in some kind of reality, but in a very
Yeah.
warped way of reality. So I kind of like writing both of them. So by the time I finish writing one, I'm like, oh right, I'm gonna do that again. Let me write the other style, and then vice versa.
Yeah. With the thrillers, you've got a lot less characters, but with these ones that are kind of set in the near future, it gives you so much more opportunities to, explore different short stories, sort of. Each
Yeah,
individual character has their
yeah.
own story for you to explore.
I was invited recently to take part in a book which is like lots of different authors are apparently participating in with lots of short stories. And I was like, well,
Hmm.
as much as I'd like to, I don't think I can because I've never written a short story. And then it kind of dawned on me, hold on, half my books are short stories, kind of sellotaped together to kind of try and make something
Yeah.
form at the end. So, but no, I couldn't. I've never actually just sat down and had a go at writing a short story before. But as you say,
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I guess that's what the
Yeah.
speculative is a lot like that, isn't it?
Yeah. For anyone who hasn't heard about it, would you like to give a brief overview of the book?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a speculative Black Mirror style thriller, which means I get to use my imagination a little bit more. And it's about five ordinary people whose brains are being used to store all of our government secrets, and they've gone off grid and are scattered about the country. Only somebody knows who they are and their existence, and it's hunting them down one by one. And so yeah, it just kind of follows these characters and kind of see who survives to the end. Shall I be totally honest with you about something, Michael?
Yeah.
I cannot for the life of me ever find a way of writing, of doing like the elevator pitch for this. So I've just sat and read this out that I've sellotaped to the bottom of my phone in
All
front of
right.
me. So there you go. I've busted myself.
It's a difficult book to sum up, I would say, because there's so many different elements to it between the character stories and between, the government conspiracy. Is that there's a real lot going on. I found, when I was writing the
Yeah,
review, it's quite hard to describe.
yeah. Yeah, and that makes it hard to sell sometimes as well. So I remember when I
Hmm.
was trying to sell the premise of the one, and that was a tricky one because people were, well, is it sci-fi or is it a romance book? I'm like, well, actually, no,
Yeah.
it's neither. It's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different things. It is. I appreciate some of my books can be a bit of a tough sell sometimes, but I think at the heart, I like to try and make it character led. I hope so,
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah, I like the fact that you incorporated a lot of social themes. You know, you had in there loneliness, abuse. So it's good that it's not just your standard thriller. There's a lot more depth to it.
Really happy stuff. Just what people want to read in the midst of just coming out of lockdown is
Well, yeah,
miserable people and terrible things happening to them.
but you've also got that real connection with the characters as well.
When you're writing just like a book with like two main characters, like What Lies Between Us, my last one,
Yeah,
um, you hope that the reader will either be on the side of both of them, of one of the both of them, or find the
hmm,
story interestingly enough to continue reading it. I guess when you're writing about five characters, there's a good chance that the readers will be at least on at least one or two people's side.
so this one, would you consider a sequel to the one and the Passengers, or maybe in the same universe,
Yeah, same
the John
universe.
Mars
Yeah,
universe?
yeah. It's like a poor man's Marvel universe. It's like the oldie version of Marvel, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're already filming the first one, so you never know. The next one could be part of something bigger.
I know it's kind of mad, isn't it? Because I've got yeah. I went to the filming of it back in
Yeah.
January time, just before kind of lockdown, really, and it was just very surreal, just sitting there watching all these people. There's probably about 40, 50 people in the room, um, makeup artists, behind the scenes stuff, hair people, the actors, thinking, blimey, they're all here because of this daft idea I had a few years ago, like
Yeah.
walking down an escalator and thinking, God, it'd be so much easier for everybody if they could just knew that they were made for somebody and then have to spark the
Yeah.
idea and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it's kind
It
of
must have
insane.
been
And then
surreal.
when What Lies Between Us was optioned as well by a production company,
Hmm.
that was a real shocker for me because I didn't think I thought that was a little bit more niche, but yeah, that
Right.
was optioned by Renée Zellweger's production company,
Oh, wow.
and the Minders at the moment can't say too much about that, but hopefully things are happening with that as well. But it's just a
Yeah.
bit weird. It's a bit surreal because I'm like
Yeah.
I get these emails. I haven't got a book agent, but I've got a TV and film agent based in
Mhm.
LA. Yeah, based in LA. So and I get these emails in the middle of the night from him that I don't read until the morning. And we've got a 10-month-old baby, so I'm up at like 6 in the morning changing the nappy with one hand and reading these offers from various production companies with the other. It's a very surreal life sometimes.
Yeah. Well, at least you still kept busy even though you were locked up.
Yes, yeah. At least been there. Yeah, he kept us very, very busy. He's been good fun.
Yeah. Good. But that's the great thing. I think it's been good for a lot of people because there's been so much more family time.
Yeah, which I think can work in a lot of people's favour, and I think it can go against people as well, unfortunately. But yeah, because my partner and I, so our son was born 2 months prematurely, so we spent
Hmm.
a lot of I spent an entire month basically in the hospital with him. As you know, they were just waiting, trying to put on a bit of weight. So he was only like about 2 pounds 14 ounces. And then
Wow.
when we got home, there was a month spent really not that going out very much, just because we didn't want
Hmm.
to harm his immune system. So we kind of hold hands at lockdown. So this was only like September, October last year. So we are
Wow.
experts. So by the time they
Yeah, you
shut
will
everything down, I'm like, yeah, we got this. We know what we're doing.
be. Brilliant. So have you used the time for writing?
Yeah, I've used some of it for writing, a lot of it mainly for reading and catching up with stuff that I haven't had an opportunity to read.
Hmm.
Because I was literally a bit of a conveyor belt. So I was writing What Lies Between Us. As soon as I finished that, I started on The Minders. And when you're writing books, I don't know what other people who write books have found, but it's a bit of a struggle sometimes reading a lot of other stuff because you
Yeah.
find yourself, oh, I find myself being really self-critical and thinking, my God, this book that I've just read is fantastic, and I am absolutely useless, which doesn't really help in the creative process. Another time, yeah, you'd also, if you get really immersed in something, you don't want to take on
Hmm.
somebody else's voice in whatever you're writing. But then, so I've used the time wisely to try and kind of catch up on a lot of stuff, I think.
And do you think that the situation that we found ourselves in has given you any inspiration, or is it?
there's a couple of nods to COVID in the minders. But no, I don't think that
Yeah.
people are going to be wanting to just read about what we've just been through. You know what, the thing I find most fascinating about this whole lockdown is when you watch TV and you see these various talking heads on various
Yeah.
programs, and they're always like, they've got books behind them. I'm always like just kind of getting really close and just staring and looking at the back to see if any of them are mine. I'm just looking at yours as well.
Yep.
It looks like a
I'll zoom
massive,
into it for you later.
there's like a massive series behind you or something. I'm trying to work
That
out what
is,
they are.
that's Jack Reacher. That one there?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you've got quite a broad taste, haven't you?
I do, yeah, but I think that's how your books appeal to me because they were both quite different, but I enjoyed them in different ways. Your previous book was definitely one of my favourite thrillers of the year so far. It was just that dynamic between the two characters was fantastic because you just had no idea what was going on. Who was the good guy? Who was the bad guy? How is this going to end? And it was brilliant.
I kind of wanted to. That one was actually inspired by Eleanor Oliphant. I
Really?
wanted to write like an anti-Eleanor Oliphant book with a kind of Gillian Flynn twist, and just make
Yeah.
a nice like heartwarming story, a real dark, miserable bastard of a book. So I kind of enjoyed doing that. It can be really twisted sometimes. It can be quite good fun.
Yeah. So how did you get your inspiration for the Minders?
People ask me this about books, and a lot of the time I can't actually remember. It just kind of comes to me, and I'd love to be able to make up some massive elaborate line. Maybe I should now on the publicity trail. Maybe I should start like just coming up with some utter crap. But honestly, I don't know. It's just this little niggling thing that that I had in my head that it would be just about hacking and. If information could be stored in another way, and I can't honestly tell you. I'd love to. I'm going to have to do better than this. I'm going to email you a lie when this is finished.
Well, that's a talent. That's a talent in itself. They just come to you and then.
It's quite funny. That's what I do for a living, isn't it? I just make stuff up for a living. I just sit here living in my own head from 9 till 5, making stuff up.
Yeah, dream job.
My mum and I had this constant argument about books. If she really hates a book, then that's it. She will still read it from beginning to end, every page. And my view is that life is way too short. If I'm not enjoying something, that's it. Gone. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, well, I used to be like your mum, because once you've started it, you feel like if you give it up, it's a waste of everything you've done so far. But my view now definitely is I'll maybe read about 100 pages. I'll put it down, give it one more chance when I'm maybe in a different mood. If it still doesn't grip me, I'll just put it down. Just move on. Because that's another 200 pages you could be reading of something else, much better.
Yeah, exactly. That's my view. See, I'm slipping my job before writing books. I used to be a journalist, so I'm slipping into journalism mode. So that's why I'm just kind of curious.
I noticed. I was well aware of that, and I have to be honest. I was a little bit nervous that this was going to happen. So, how does it feel to be on the opposite side?
Oh, it's weird, man. It's weird. Yeah, I'm slowly getting used to it. It's because like I spent like 25 years being the one asking the questions, and so now when people are asking me questions, I'm like, I think I sound really boring. I just don't think what I have to say is particularly interesting. But yeah, I guess some people kind of are interested. But that's another question I was going to ask you. Why are there not as many male book bloggers as there are female? Why do you think that is?
To me, I think it's the perception because a lot of the Instagram accounts that I see are based around a book, maybe with flowers and different props. It's maybe something that men see and say, I'm not into that and maybe I can't compete with that. And a lot of people as well tend to focus on a certain theme, and anything that breaks a theme they won't put on their page. So for me, it was a case of the pictures at the start were very poor. It was just a case of gradually improving them over time, using it as an opportunity to express the creativity I didn't know I needed to express, to the point of basically no theme, just post what I like.
Yeah. And have you ever thought about writing anything book-wise?
I have thought about it, and I do have a few ideas now and again. It's not something that I'm seriously considering at the moment.
Okay.
Talking of Lee Child, I believe he didn't write his first book till he turned 40. So I always say there's still time yet.
Yeah. That's kind of something I've got in common with him, because I didn't write my first book until, so when did I start? I think I started in 2011 or 2012. I just wanted to, I've never had any great desire to write a book. And it was just a project, just to see. My idea was see if I could write a book, get somebody interested in it, and that would be great. And then I thought, you know, it's going to maybe a bit of an advantage of getting a publisher or something, or an agent. But I just got these like 80 rejection letters week after week. They just came flooding in. I've still got them, actually. I've still got a big file of them. But so I ended up self-publishing that book a couple of years later. And my aim was to get about 100 people who I didn't know to download it. And then it kind of took off from word of mouth, and it got picked up by a mainstream publisher, and it's done about 300 and whatever thousand copies now. So I just think that it just changed it absolutely changed my career and changed my life, really. So it's, yeah, my first 4 or 5 books were written on trains, because I used to commute down to London from where I live. So it's like an hour and 3/4 to get to work, hour and 3/4 to get back. It's like a lot of writing you can do in a day. So yeah, it now feels strange now that I do it full time. You just sit in my little office here and write from home.
You've got your vinyls in the background. I know that you're keen on getting back into them.
Yeah, I haven't really bought many since then. I think the record player was a bit of a novelty idea. I really like the idea of having a record player going old school. But I still buy CDs. It's terrible. I was in a second-hand shop recently and I bought 3. What did I buy? I bought an old Michael Jackson one, Guns N' Roses Greatest Hits, and The Best of Simple Minds for about £3. So
excellent.
Quite excited by that little haul.
Quite right. No, I still buy CDs as well. I don't think you can beat the quality on a proper hi-fi.
No, hi-fi. You're so old school.
Hi-fi.
Does your hi-fi play the wireless at all?
It does. I don't listen to it, but it has the potential.
Okay. I don't really listen to music when I'm writing. I can't. I have to have like absolute silence. I have my headphones on sometimes, but with nothing coming in, just to blank out everything else. It's only when I get to the proofing stage and then I start doing rewrites, that's when I listen to something. And I've been trying to go back through back catalogues of artists that I've only really know the singles of and listen to their albums. So old stuff by like David Bowie, Roxy Music, Pet Shop Boys, and stuff like that, just to kind of so it's been a great opportunity to get to know a lot of stuff that I haven't really spent much time listening to. We were listening to George Michael's album in the car yesterday, but unfortunately the baby kept crying, so we had to turn that off and listen to What the Ladybird Heard on audiobook instead, which kind of calmed him down.
All right.
My life is
calming the baby down is always more important than your own enjoyment.
Yes, exactly.
So I wanted to ask you about a little bit more about the adaptation. I guess that's been held up. Was it completely finished?
It was all filmed, all completed before lockdown began. So they spent like a few months adding the special effects and whatever they need to do to it, a little magic dust, and then they deliver it to Netflix in, I think it was either last month or this month, where it's subtitled and dubbed into about 150 different languages, and then this autumn it should just suddenly appear. So I've got no idea what it's like. I know it's going to be quite different to the book. I don't have a problem with that. As far as I see, I kind of took it as far as I could with the book. And so it's someone else's vision now. So I'm quite excited to see what they do with it. It's going to be interesting.
So did you meet the cast?
I met a couple of members of the cast, yeah, but I've had to sign loads of non-disclosures. So I'm not allowed to say anything that I know, which is not that much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or even who's in it. I mean, there's little bits appear on Instagram every now and again when you get an actor kind of. There was even one of the actors actually tweeted me the other day to ask if I knew much about it and when it was even starting. It's that some of it's kind of kept. Netflix keeps a lot of stuff and kind of secret for unknown reasons. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do. Definitely.
Looks exciting. It's disappointing that you didn't get a cameo, unless there's something you haven't told us about. No cameo. Maybe if old Mrs. Zellweger turns that book into something that I can have a little walk-on spot as she flies me over to LA for the filming of it. We'll see. That would be good. Do you have any advice for anyone else who's interested in writing? You know, where to start?
Well, I think it depends what you want to write for, whether you want to write for fun or whether you want to write to make a living. And I originally mine was to write for fun, and now I've totally sold out and it's to make a living. But I think if you want to write for a career, then you've got to write something that people want to read. So you have to be careful. You have to do your research and see what categories people are reading, what kind of books people are buying. Kind of write accordingly. But with your own spin on it. And these days, it's never been easier to self-publish, has it? I mean, there are so many millions, and that's not an exaggeration, millions of self-published books out there. But it's all about the promotion of it, and you can upload your book on Amazon. Yeah, you can upload your book on Amazon for free, but it's just going to sit there with all the millions of others if you don't go out there and try and you know, talk to bloggers, ask for reviews, send copies out to people. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work, but it's also a lot of fun, and I get to chat to a lot of different people, such as yourself. Yeah. So it's interesting.
It seems to be the authors self-published or, you know, with a publishing company, the ones who engage the most with their audience on social media, who tend to have the most traction, really.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I started selling books mainly when a couple of people on a Facebook book club recommended it to their friends. So the book was, you know, it done quite well. It sold quite a few thousand, and it's kind of starting to drift away a little bit as books do. And then they mentioned it, and word of mouth, and it sold like about an extra 500 copies in just an afternoon, which for a self-published writer is just like absolutely amazing. And then when you get more reviews and more traction, then it was a weird week, Michael, because this is what, 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, it's about 4 years ago now, I think. In the same week, I got approached about my first book and whether I wanted a publisher to take it on, as well as the book I'd just published that week called The One, or was then called 1,000 Small Explosions, and then at the same time, and see whether I wanted to it to be taken on by a production company. So there was a lot going on, like 2 different books, 3 different potential projects, all in the space of a week. It was insane, but it's all based on just trying to it's trying to like build up a bit of a name for yourself and getting people to read your stuff and to be you know, to be able to talk to people. Yeah.
I've just had a question in the comments there asking which is your favourite of the books that you've written.
Which was my favourite? I kind of have my own little favourites for my own reasons. I think I've got how many have I done? So I've got 8 out, and my second book, Welcome to Wherever You Are, is the only book that's still self-published. It's like the middle child that nobody remembers at Christmas. I've got quite a lot of fondness for that book. But then The One is the book that's kind of sold the most to the most different countries around the world. The Good Samaritan is actually my most read book when it comes to the number of downloads. My book Her Last Move wasn't a massive success compared to some of the others, but I really enjoyed writing it. It's all I have like different things for different reasons. So do I have a favourite? I'll probably have to go for the first one, When You Disappeared. I'll just show you. I don't know whether you've ever seen the original cover. So I can find it. So where are we? Yeah. So it's originally called The Wrong Sons, and it was like self-published. I look at it now, and if the formatting is just the worst thing you've ever seen, isn't it? Dreadful. It looks like my dog could have done a better version of it, but in the end, I guess it did no harm.
Did you format that yourself?
Yeah.
That's an achievement in itself. You've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I did get someone that I work with who designed the cover for me. Bad job that. So I think probably The Wrong Son then became Welcome to Wherever. No, which then became what the frick did it become? Then became When You Disappeared. They changed the title, so for an old man like me, I get very confused very easily. That'd probably be my favourite at the moment. Ask me tomorrow and I might change my mind.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you would choose that though. It's nice. Yeah, so I guess we should talk a little bit more about the Minders. So that comes out today.
Yes, that's the digital version. The paperback version comes out in September time. And I think it comes out in America and Canada in February next year with like a different publisher. So it's quite exciting. So most of today, to be honest, I've had a lot of stuff to do, general faffing around, but most of it's just been spent pressing the refresh button on Amazon every hour to see whether it's gone up or gone down, or to get an idea of how many it's selling.
And as well, watching all the reviews coming in.
Yeah, those are always quite kind of interesting. I'll start reading reviews for about the first week or so, but then after that I kind of stop. I think I'll have a look at what like the average number of reviews is, the average rating you get. But I kind of figured a while ago that reviews are not for me. They are from one reader to another, and they're none of my business. And you still occasionally you'll have a look, see someone really criticising a book, and you'll be like, oh, okay. But then you got to kind of think of all the good reviews you get. And it always shows me up if I It always gives me if I look at the bad reviews, and then I'll see what else that person has reviewed. So they'll give me like 1 star out of 5, but they'll give 5 out of 5 to a neon pink dog collar. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
that's all right. I
exactly.
can live with that.
Yeah.
But Goodreads is a place that I don't really go on very much. It's not something that I really understand, and I really think that's for readers. I don't really think that's for people like me to be poking my nose in.
Well, I think people are a lot more brutal on there because they know that the author's unlikely to read it as much as on social media.
I think we're all likely to read it, but we're very less likely to comment on it, because you do not want to be that person who ever comments on one of your reviews, do you?
Or one of those that rates it 5 stars.
Oh yeah, yeah. If they rate themselves 5 star, it's just no. I was just reading just before I started speaking to you. Did you read this thing about a self-published author recently who bought 400 copies of his own book for £3,500 to push it into the top 10 of the Times, Sunday Times?
No way.
So he's had his and he admitted it. So he's had his like rankings kind of cut. Yeah. As much as it would be nice to appear on a list like that, I'd rather not spend £3,500 of my own money. I'll just get my mum to do it instead.
Yeah. Another question here is asking if you plan to do any signings at any bookshops. Is that back on now?
First of all, I don't know, and secondly, I've never once done a signing at a bookshop, and I've never appeared on a panel, and I've never appeared at a festival. I've managed to avoid it. I prefer hiding.
Yeah.
I'm just the thought of standing in front of a massive group of people scares the bejesus out of me. I go to Harrogate. I've been to that for the last couple of years, and that's great. And all I do is just kind of mooch around talking to other people. And I'm fine with like on a one-to-one or one-to-a-few people basis. But the thought of sitting in front of people and talking about, well, my process and taking myself really seriously, couldn't do it. No, I hate the idea. Yeah. So
that's
it's not really for me. And again, I do feel sorry for people who like want autographed copies of books, because I don't really have the facility to do it other than to give my address out to them. I'd rather not do that.
Definitely not. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
No, really, thank you for your interest. Thanks for reviewing my books. It's people like you who keep people like me in a job. Without you, we would all gradually just disappear into ether. So thank you very much.
No, it's a pleasure. John Marsh, thanks very much.
Cheers, Michael. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks again to John Marsh for joining me today. His new book, The Minders, is out now in digital format and will be out in paperback in September. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future updates. See you soon.